So one it is.
That's all we got?
Is it?
Do you want more?
Well, we're gonna call to order, our, zoning meeting. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, we're gonna call to order, planning and zoning meeting. First up we have is old business.
Reading of the agenda.
Oh, sorry. Actually, I got it here. Sorry. I have a quorum, and a reading of the agenda.
We have called to order the quorum reading of the agenda, approval of the agenda, old business, which will be approval of the minutes, new business, which is the conditional use CU 0116, Kim Poor of Villa Rica, Georgia, requesting a conditional use permit for the property located at 326 North Avenue for the keeping of chicken and goats. Then we'll have staff comments, public comment, and adjournment.
Move approval of the agenda.
Second. All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Old business.
I've reviewed the minutes and they seem to be in order, so move approval.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. And new business, conditional use. Is there anyone here that's in favor of the conditional use? Would you like to come up and say your name and address?
Kim Ford, 326 North Ave, that's the conditional use permit. I laid out a pretty good argument, I think, for having the goats, and I do understand that Ms. Britt, I believe, had sent a second letter to the council suggesting the rental of goats. I did a little research, I didn't want to go crazy and do another 12 pounds of paper, so to rent goats at approximately $200 a day, 2 to 3 times a month, 7 months a year, which is the growing season, would cost approximately $4,200 a year.
$200 a day? How many goats you get for that?
That's between 20 and 30 goats. That's,
20 and 30 goats?
Yeah, that's an average.
You need to sublet those.
I know, right?
Okay, now that we've established that price point,
That's kind of outside my reach. A second concern that I've just did some numbers. The Roundup option, which is the chemical option, is approximately, and this is a guesstimate because you can go up or down on the concentration, 19 gallons of mixed chemicals applied twice a year, so that's 38 gallons per year, 380 gallons over 10 years, going straight into our water supply system. That's not a situation that I personally favor. I would rather have clean water to start with. One other point that I would like to make is I do not want to keep these goats permanently forever and ever. I want to keep them long enough to eradicate the kudzu problem, at which time I'll invite everybody here to a barbecue. The last couple of points that I'd like to make are goats are less intrusive than dogs. They're going to be contained within a fence, and within that fence is going to be a, for lack of a better word, goat house. They will be contained within that goat house at night, so that they're not going to be out roaming anywhere. And two other points that I wanted to make is they're less dangerous than dogs. I'm not sure if anyone here has ever been around goats, but they don't have full set of teeth. They have like 4 bottom teeth, and that's it. So even if they did bite you, it's going to be more of a non-bite than anything else. And the last thing I wanted to say is they are less noisy, less stinky. They really very inoffensive little creatures. I'm thinking that probably all of you have been to Pine Mountain Gold Museum, and there are goats there in their own little pen, which is much, much smaller than what I propose. Yep, little pygmies.
we have goats.
Yep,
I know we have sheep.
and goats, turkeys, pigs, horse, donkey, ox. They're very inoffensive little animals.
Now you found a cash value, you should loan them out.
I'm gonna rent those suckers out. We can lower our property taxes. $200 a day, I'll eradicate your kudzu and upcharge.
They're about this big.
Wonder why I don't remember that.
They're right at the end of the little animal portion, furthest away from.
Have to go back again. Maybe I was just focused on the rabbits and the sheep and stuff, but I had goats growing up. I just don't remember that we had goats. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But those are the salient points that I have. I would really like to have these goats to keep from destroying the water table in Billerica, which needs, all the fresh water we can get, and, anything like that. So if y'all have any questions that I might be able to answer.
What kind of comments are you hearing from neighbors other than the one letter that we saw?
I think everybody's for it. Everybody, I'm not gonna say everybody, but
We had 2 letters
yeah.
previously.
My neighbor across the street, she's all for it. Mr. Dean, he's ecstatic over the possibility of getting goats. There's a couple of neighbors further this direction, on Chief Street, that really thinks it's a great idea. Chrissy Sullivan obviously thinks it's a good idea. John and Jody Mount has both spoken for rather than against. So the lady that lives beside me with the autistic grandson that thinks goats are scary, they're never outside much anyway. I've seen them outside a couple of times. And the absentee landlord that lives way down behind me, I've never, ever seen anybody in their yard. So, I don't know.
You've spoken quite a bit about the goats. What about the chickens?
I'm not really planning to have chickens, I just wanted the option to have chickens. They can be a little bit needy, and I'm not looking for needy, I'm looking for less needy. I would prefer to go out and feed and water the goats a couple of times a day and move on about my business. My passion lies with farming, or not farming, but greenhouse. I want a greenhouse there eventually.
But if this is approved, it does include the chickens, and they can be a bother.
If I do have chickens, they will be pinned. Absolutely pinned, and they will be nowhere near the fences or anybody's house.
That was a question I have. Is there any fencing now?
Yes. The entire back of the property is fenced.
And how long would you say, or you think it would take? I didn't get a chance to go by there, but that it would take to eradicate the kudzu there with having the goats.
There are several different approximations, anywhere from 5 to 10 years.
To get rid of your kudzu? Wow.
That's what I was saying about the chemicals. It usually takes chemicals about 10 years.
I was trying to figure out why you were giving us like a decade's worth of data. Now that makes sense to me.
It takes time to leach down into the soil and eradicate the roots.
But the goats don't eradicate the roots.
And what they do is they nibble down to the, I'm not sure what it's actually called, but that little knot that's just under the dirt. And if they continuously eat that knot, then that kills the roots.
But don't they have to eat all of the stuff well above that before they get to that part? So that could take,
That's why it takes a little bit of time, I think. I'm not a goat expert by any means.
well, I'm not sure I would agree with that based on, on the information you've provided, so.
I would be willing to drop the chickens if that's, a game changer. Mr. Martin?
Is there any other questions?
Well, let me speak of one thing. Up at the church right at the top of the hill on Sunset Drive,
Yes, sir.
Thomas Darcy Drive, we had kudzu up there. Thought there was still some on the bank going down the street there.
Yes, sir.
So what we did, we went in there and bush hogged it. and raked it. And I keeps it cut, and there's no kudzu there now. It sprouts up for the first couple of years, you keep it cut, and it kills it.
Yes, sir. I've looked into that option as well, and it's such a large plot that I have almost 4 acres. It would be very time-consuming as well, it would take the majority of my time to keep that cut back during the summer, as fast as kudzu grows. I'm doing the best I can this year of keeping the front almost kudzu-free, and a portion of the back area where it's fenced, I've been able to keep it knocked down a little bit, but it's still quite a chore.
Just saying, if you get, if you bush hog it and get it cut good down where you can run a lawnmower across, not a push mower, you won't be out there pushing over 4 to 6 acres, but if you had a nice riding lawnmower, they can cut it in a couple hours. You have to do it a couple of 3 weeks.
Yes, sir.
When it starts sprouting up, you go and cut it. And one day you don't have any, no more than what comes out of the woods. Then you keep that cut back.
I'm trying to do that. It's taking over a little bit.
Yeah, but once you get it down, it's easy to keep up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm just curious, why goats and not sheep? The old adage is a little sheep goes a long way.
I would be willing to go either way, honestly. The goats eat the more fibrous plants, and sheep are a little bit pickier. They like to eat grass.
And that's kind of what your data inferred, so.
I actually know it to be just almost the opposite. Goats tend to be more investigatory. They'll eat just about anything in their path, but they'll investigate. Sheep will keep an entire yard mowed down right to the thing. In fact, all of the folks from Georgia Tech, University of Georgia, everyone are using sheep now versus goats because they have different tendencies. This from someone that actually have raised goats from
Perhaps
Birth?
a mixture of sheep and
so.
goats.
So I was just curious as that because you'll find that if you get approved, I would have been asking for sheep versus goats. I will say that one of our goats did eat the bumper to my mom's car, which was a Cadillac that used to not be, they were fiberglass or whatever.
Probably
And
didn't work out well.
yeah, sheep won't be as invasive to your overall house. They're easier to contain. Goats are harder to contain. And then of course, I'm assuming you're gonna probably end up dehorning them or using the rubber band
Just
approach.
gutted it first.
So.
But my problem would be that sheep or goats, it's still livestock
In residential.
within the city. And at previous meetings, we've had nobody here but you in support of this. Now, I've heard them all at council meetings, but nobody showed up for planning and zoning. But we've heard negative comments, including 2 letters and a telephone call. And I just have concern with opening this up, if this gets approved, then somebody else will want to bring in something else, and where does it stop? So,
Right.
Would it be acceptable if I only acquired dwarf or miniature versions of whatever it is? Because I don't want to be a goat farmer. I don't want to raise goats. I don't want to be bound to the land. And the goats or sheep or whatever possible livestock might be suggested, I would be very happy, very satisfied with the miniature versions. I don't, even if it were a little miniature pony or donkey, or I've even seen miniature cows. It looks very strange, but, I understand that it's technically livestock, but in all actuality, I think it's more along the lines of the miniature pig craze, the potbelly
We did. They were housebroken. And they can be.
Yeah.
We domesticated ours, but your biggest issue, I was curious when I saw the chickens as well on there, because they don't mix, other than the chickens forage and what's left over by the goats. But it's those doggone pellets. My gosh, it's like geese. You'll have a well fertilized backyard if you have goats in your backyard. But
I'd be willing to drop the chickens.
yeah, but one thing for the commission. So
First, do we have any more questions for her?
I have no questions. You certainly. I'm going to put you on the spot, Vicki. Vicki's done community development, land use planning, everything for like over 2 decades. So she is a great staff resource. She may have some questions that, and you're more than welcome to come up if you have any questions, Miss Vicki.
I don't have any additional questions. I think you have more to cover or inquired about. I didn't see what the surrounding, I'm assuming it's all surrounding residential. So, residential only in this property, so.
Okay. Is there anyone that want to speak in opposed to the conditional use? Okay. Public comments portion of that is closed. Staff comments?
So from a staff standpoint, I'm going to take a little different approach on the council meetings. So for instance, next week, let's see, the council meeting has a work session for Thursday, which is the 1st. You'll see the conditional use, anytime there's variances, things like that. There's been comments that the public doesn't actually pick up on those on the agendas. So you'll actually see that blasted as a standout moving forward, so that the public actually realizes that they have a public hearing opportunity. I don't think the public actually picks that up. So that'll be done in advance of the council's work session and voting meeting. Aside from that, it's there's a reason it's conditional use. The current zoning prohibits livestock in residential neighborhoods. I will say that I did have a discussion with Janet Hyde, because originally I saw that she had a recommendation for approval, and I had asked her what the basis for that is. Unless she's deviated from what she's told me since, she said that yeah, she probably should have recommended a denial. So from a staff standpoint, we would recommend a denial.
Did she say why she originally recommended approval?
Not directly, no.
I would be more than happy to revisit this if approved. I would be more than happy to revisit this in a year's time to make sure that the goats or whatever are not offensive.
Any other comments or questions for staff?
No, based on the fact that this really is a residential area, and as much as I sympathize with Ms. Poor and her kudzu problem, and she's gone through tremendous research, and it all seems very valid, but my concern is we've heard at this commission no supportive comments. We've had 2 people that have been here previously that addressed negative comments. And I'm just concerned about the long-range implications of allowing livestock in the city limits. And I move we disapprove the request.
We have a motion to not allow the conditional use. We have a second.
I second it this time. I second.
Okay, all in favor of denial of the conditional use, CU 0116? All in favor?
In favor of the motion, right?
Yes. And all opposed? Yes. So it's 2-1. So, as Mr. Kraft would say, you have to do this all over again at council meeting, come there. The recommendation board, which is us, was in favor of not approving it, and it would go before council. And then you will have to speak again in reference to it.
My guess is I would not be surprised if it comes back to this body again. My guess is it might very well end up 2-2 in the council again, and
I'm going to ask to delay it until there's full council. And that way,
yeah, both times it's come before us, it's been 3 people, and so.
Mr. Chairman, obviously, based on the comments that we had gotten from the absent members, one was for, one was against.
Right.
So even there, it would be 3 in denial, 2 for. So when I go to council, basically, I'm going to present your vote and also what they have received. They've received both letters. So I'm going to report to them that if those were taken, they can't be counted, but if they were here, and if their votes held to what they stated in writing, because certainly Georgia law would have allowed them to call in, for instance, and participate in the vote. They're allowed to do that under certain circumstances. Your vote still would have been 3-2 against. So I'm going to convey that and allow the council to decide what it wants to do. That would at least further the process, because at that point, the council will have made a decision, and then the applicant's not disenfranchised and can certainly weigh the options and move forward accordingly.
Yeah, I have a question for staff. Can the condition that she applied for be amended? Can she amend it in midstream?
The actual applicant, it's my understanding they can take away, but they can't add to it. So, Vicki, certainly your history of this, I'm correct. If I'm speaking out loud, let me know. But it's always been my understanding that they can detract from an application. They just can't amend it to add additional uses.
At this point in time, it's kind of gone through the advertising of the things that they are requesting, so I'm not sure to what extent you are thinking about, but yeah, that's part of what's the issue is in terms of the required advertising. You certainly could withdraw the application altogether. I don't know, are there conditions, I don't really understand the full scope. I want to make sure I understand what you might be considering.
Or like she wanted to take the chickens out, possibly.
Okay.
Just if she was to, I only want to limit the goats. I only want to limit now to 1 year, and I want to limit it to 4 goats. So all those are reductions in her original advertise. Because if it fails, then it's closed.
And then it has to meet a certain.
Has to
requirement.
time frame before reapplication, cost, everything.
Okay. Next, I guess we have up is staff comments.
The only pending case is actually going right now that I'm aware of is going to council. It's not a PZB issue, but there is an applicant in the audience who requested to do public comment. So I will give you a nickel understanding of what he is requesting. Brian operates I'm going to call it a boutique vehicle acquisition business where he has clientele that he will seek out and obtain vehicles on behalf of his clients. He will then refurbish them at a location, and then he will sell them to the applicant. At any given time, he may have a half dozen, give or take, vehicles on the lot. He has made application in the LI light industrial. Under our current occupational tax code, it says that basically vehicle purchasing and selling along with auto repairs is not a permitted use in LI. However, vehicle repairs are. And so there is this one facility in LI that half of it is doing automobile repairs inside a building. He wants to be able to do his restoration inside the other half of that building and then be able to have his client vehicles on the lot, which I believe is a fence lot, if I'm not mistaken, enclosed lot. Is that correct?
There would be no conspicuous lot.
Okay.
Most of the delivery of the vehicles would be done really inside the garage.
Okay. So the question is, we're sending this to council for an interpretation of that particular use. And talking to our city attorney, he has rendered some advice, and quite frankly, it goes contrary to common sense, if you will, that he's not operating a used car dealership, but because he is involved in the purchase and sale of vehicles, even one vehicle would be against the permitted use in LI. So that is on the council agenda for its work session. A copy of Mr. Burke's letter is on the website as an addendum document that he has written and presented, and he has shared with council via the document where he is doing business in is it Douglas County? Should they want to go seek, but what it comes down to is he constituted, or should he be constituted, as a car dealership?
What's the name of the business?
May I?
Sure.
Name of my business is called Motor City Garage.
I just state your name and address for the record for me, please. I'm sorry.
Name of my business is Motor City Garage. My current name is Brian Borick. My address is 5900 North Elton Road, Philadelphia, 30180. The current domicile or place of business that I operate the garage from is 4780 Highway 5, Suite C as in Charlie 3, Douglasville, Georgia 30135.
So is it a repo? Are you doing any repo?
If I may, the OCGA does not allow for a auto broker, because basically that's what I do. I will go to the auctions. I was at the auction earlier, purchase cars. Let's say you come to me and say, I want this year car, and I say, okay, I can find that for you. I go purchase it at an auction at a wholesale rate for my clients, and broker the car, sell it in accordance as a dealer. The state of Georgia does not differentiate between a broker and dealer. So you're either a dealer or you're not. Other states, they do differentiate, but not the state of Georgia. So mine is very limited in scope, usually 2 or 3 cars and 2 or 3 clients is what I would be working up. I'm starting very, very small. Those cars would then need to be reconditioned. Some of them need to be reconditioned, repaired. I would do so in the confines of the commercial garage that's located at the property that I'm looking at, which is 104B as in boy, Hunter Industrial Drive in Villarica, which is right off Liberty Road. Currently, my current office is it's about the size of a closet. It's very, very small. And I have 14 acres off North Elton Road, so any cars that I keep them over in my rural address and conduct the business at the office. So, as you can see, the more cars that I'm gonna be flipping and the more cars that I'm gonna restoring, I'm gonna need a little bit of garage space to work on those cars. And that's what's caused me to look for larger garage space. It's also convenient for my clients that it's right off I-20, which would give it great access for metropolitan Atlanta customers. So that's the reason for me moving. Also, the current place that I'm located at, it's very, very limiting. And it was just a means to an end for me to get started in the business and to basically keep my costs low as I go forward.
But you are buying and selling cars.
Yes. I'm a state of Georgia licensed used motor vehicle dealer is the official term. And if there were a broker's license per se, I would apply for it and probably get granted a broker's license, but there isn't. You're either a dealer or you're not. So that's the and it was confusing for me as I was looking into this. And through the application process, you have to go through training and education. So I had to learn about it, and that was one of the things that I learned. There's no such thing as a broker in Georgia. You're a dealer or you're not.
Why don't you classify yourself as a dealer?
I am. I'm a dealer.
So the issue is not, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not an issue of him being a dealer or a broker. It's the fact that him purchasing or having this location and conducting
Right, not applicable to the
sales,
current
yeah,
zoning.
right.
Yeah, the zoning as it's written right now specifically prohibits dealers.
Right.
And while I am technically a dealer, it's more of a broker. That's basically what I'm doing. It's very limited in numbers. Now, the other part that I'd like to bring to the forum's attention is I appreciate this municipality's work to be strict on your zoning and your ordinance. I appreciate that as a concerned citizen and member of this community. And I also am aware of there's an unscrupulous lot that was operating here in Villa Rica that you guys have had to take resources and clean up that mess. So I understand why every official in this municipality wouldn't look 2 and 3 times to make sure that the business is in concert with what the citizens of Villa Rica deem as a trustworthy member of the business, member of the community, but also is this somebody that you want to be doing business with and buy and sell cars from? And so I appreciate that. And so I just make that as a comment because if I were not pursuing this, I would be concerned if Villa Rica managers and the staff and the elected officials were not looking at this 2 or 3 times over. So mine would be very, very small. I do most of the work inside for air conditioning purposes, heat purposes. The only vehicles that I really see on outside the building would be vehicles that would be transitioning the building and then the people who are working inside. To the direct left of the space that I'm looking at, there's a heavy equipment repair facility, and they conduct, 18-wheeler repair, heavy equipment repair. So.
Yeah, we've recently had a couple of zoning appeals from that same area, if I understand where you are.
Yes, sir.
Would you have any cars on the outside and have signs on it saying for sale?
If I would be granted the approval to do so, it would be maybe one or two, because that would be, let's say a client came by, I would move the vehicle outside the garage, place it in front of the building, and they could inspect the vehicle and find out if they want to purchase it. But as far as a used car lot, like we see on the TV commercials, that's not what I'm about. That's not what I want to do. And I have no intention. And furthermore, if I'm selling that many cars, and that would be a good problem, I'm going to have to move out of there anyway because it would be too small. So that's, I think the confusion lies in the definition, in the difference between a broker and a dealer. The space is, it's, quite frankly, it's inexpensive, and it's close to my home, and it's off I-20. If the city council and this distinguished forum would disapprove this, I would, I'd be disappointed, of course, but I would just find another location. So that would be in concert with the state guidance and the state regulations.
Okay, thank you.
All right, update from the city council meeting. Obviously, you're aware that the Kimpor conditional use was sent back. It did not pass council, and they just simply referred it back to P&Z. You all have now taken action. We'll send it back to city council. They approved a conditional use permit for Greg Daniel Villarica for the wrecker service and vehicle equipment storage facility on Hunter's Industrial. They approved the overnight parking of trucks ordinance amendment respective to Article 4 of the UDC and zoning. And they tabled the alcohol beverage ordinance amendment. They said until September. I still haven't gotten that rewrite yet from the city attorney. So it's not going to be on the September that I recollect. I don't think I got it back yet. And then last was update on the master plan. Just received these yesterday. So this is the official printed version of the plan. The plan is now in writing, and staff is in the midst of putting together its 2017 annual budget request, and are using the downtown plan in part for some of that budgeting process. So now you have the full official document, if you will, but that is the downtown master plan, and those beautiful books came with the $41,000 bill for the entire master plan process.
That was covered under the grant, was it not?
No grant for that. There was matching funds that the city had to pay. Our portion was $41,000.
So is that through a course of time, or was that all at once?
Pardon me?
Was that through a course of time, or was that all at once?
What, the bill?
Yes.
Oh,
Payment of the 41.
they only sent us one bill, sir.
No, I mean the payment of it. So
Oh,
we
just
paying it.
one bill. Yeah, one check. That's chump change. We just wired out like over $700,000 today. Bond payment.
So this is all in our hands now, in the city's hands.
Yeah,
Anything
yeah.
that happens from here forth.
Yeah, and then as a heads up, we're nearing the timetable to revisit the city's comprehensive plan. So, for instance, there'll be a line item in the 2017 budget for $100,000 for that, because the alternative is to allow our regional commission write it for us.
No.
And our recommendation is that we'll hire a firm to do the charrette, work with the BZB and city council and staff and the public to rewrite and update the comprehensive plan.
Well, many of us have been looking forward to the planning portion of this august body. I've been on this council for quite a while, and it's all been zoning. So we're really interested in the planning portion of this. We've reviewed the current plan. Janet took us through each section of that every meeting. And it leaves a lot to be desired. And I'm sure that was not done locally. That was done by a consultant. So
Comp plans can be interesting animals, and if done right, they're a beautiful document, and they're truly a blueprint for the future of your city, or they can be viewed as something that, hey, throw that back up there on the shelf until we have to go through this process again, because, don't want to do that again. And, speaking generically, there's two documents that I find most often that individual council members aren't familiar with. One is their city charter. The second generally is their comprehensive plan. And so for instance, from a staff perspective, I always like to remind councils, well, but you all approved in your downtown plan, or you approved in your master plan, and always tie it back. It's the same thing with the way the budget's being done, is when you look at the strategic plan that the city council worked on and handed over to staff. You always have to remind the council, this is implementing your plan. It's not a staff plan. It's your plan. So again, you can have basically two extremes of a comprehensive plan. There's one extreme that is not beneficial to anyone. And ours is a little more complicated in a city of this because you're in two counties.
Well, and that was part of the problem. Much of that was put together before Mirror Lake even existed. So the data and the statistics are.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why that figure of 100,000 is pretty high. Because it's going to be a complete rewrite. I anticipate that by the time it's done.
I would agree.
Got to get it done by 2018.
Okay. All right, we have public comments. If any group wish to speak or one person designated to speak for the group, please sign your name on the sheet and keep all comments limited to 10 minutes. No takers. Public comments closed. And I vote for any nominees for adjournment.
I move approval to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank everybody for their participation.
So really, for discussion, I find it interesting. So on here you have reading of agenda as opposed to adoption agenda, which intrigues me.
No, we adopted the agenda.
Yeah, you adopt it, but you have a reading of the agenda, which I wonder what the history of that is, where that comes from, because
Oh, yeah.
that's like unheard of. It's like